You think a place is just wood and nails, stone and glass. But what if a place is aware? What if a building is a form of consciousness, and it's been waiting for you? The deadliest trap in the world isn't a cage. It's an assumption, a deal that sounds too good to be true. A door that opens exactly when you need it most. This is a story about a place like that. A place that listens to your desperation and offers you a key. By the end of this, you will no longer be afraid of haunted houses. You will be afraid of your own hope. Because you will understand that the monster isn't the one knocking at the door. It's the part of you that's desperate enough to let it in. The air in the burger joint was thick, a greasy fog you could almost chew. It clung to my clothes, my hair, my very soul. For 2 years, this had been my reality. Flipping patties, scrubbing floors, and breathing in the scent of shattered dreams. My current living situation wasn't much better. A cramped room with a window that faced a brick wall and a landlord who communicated exclusively through angry, red-inked notes. This was my state, a state of being perpetually broke, tired, and cornered. So when Rick, who usually only spoke in monosyllables and smelled faintly of stale cigarettes, cornered me by the dumpster, his eyes wide with a strange light, I listened. He told me about an apartment, an actual one-bedroom apartment in a decent building. And the rent. It was less than half of what I was paying for my glorified closet. It was the kind of offer that doesn't exist in the real world. A life raft, in an ocean of grease. And my desperate consciousness clung to it instantly. My first thought was, what's the catch? There's always a catch. But Rick just shrugged, his movements jerky and unnatural. No catch, just the previous tenant, left in a hurry. The landlord needs someone reliable, I thought of you. He wouldn't look me in the eye. Instead, his gaze darted around, as if watching for something over my shoulder. The cheapness wasn't just suspicious, it was loud, a blaring alarm bell in the back of my mind. But the feeling of having my own space, a real home, was the key. My imagination immediately started painting pictures, a quiet place to read, a kitchen where I could cook something that wasn't microwaved, a door I could lock against the world. This powerful vision, this glimpse into a different state of being, was a drug. It quieted the alarms, smoothed over the rough edges of Rick's bizarre behavior. My inner world was a battleground between raw suspicion and desperate hope, and hope was winning. He kept talking, his voice low and rushed, using words that felt alien coming from a guy who spent 8 hours a day asking, "You want fries with that?" He spoke of it as a selection. "You just have to choose it," he whispered, leaning closer. "Once you make the assumption it's yours, you have to understand, you already are the person living there. This is just the paperwork." It was the kind of pseudo-philosophical nonsense you'd expect from a self-help guru, not from Rick. I wanted to laugh, to ask him what he was on, but his intensity was unnerving. He was completely serious. His belief in what he was saying was absolute, and it was more unsettling than the low rent. It felt like he wasn't offering me an apartment. He was initiating me into a secret, a cult whose only other member was him. He was handing me a key, but it felt like he was also handing me a burden he was desperate to get rid of. My exhaustion had its own operant power. It made the decision for me. The daily grind, the constant anxiety over bills, the sheer weight of my existence. It was a force that pushed me forward, right into the arms of this too-good-to-be-true offer. "I'll take it," I said, the words feeling like they were spoken by someone else. Rick's face didn't break into a smile. Instead, a wave of profound relief washed over him, so visible it was like he'd been holding his breath for an hour. He slapped my shoulder, a heavy final gesture. "Good," he breathed. "Out. It's done. You are in." He scribbled an address on a greasy napkin and pushed it into my hand. His fingers were cold. He turned and walked away without another word, not even finishing his shift. He just left, disappearing into the night, leaving me under the buzzing, fluorescent lights with the smell of old fry oil and a piece of paper that held a promise and a threat. I stood there for a long time, the napkin clutched in my fist. The initial rush of excitement was gone, replaced by a deep, cold dread. I had made a choice. I had accepted the unbelievable because my current reality was unbearable. I had let the feeling be the key, overriding all logic and reason. I looked at the address, the ink bleeding slightly from the grease on the paper. Apartment 3C. It felt like more than just a place to live. It was a destination I had been unknowingly moving toward my whole life. I had agreed to step into a new state of being, but I had no idea what that state truly was, or what was already waiting for me inside it. But that's only the surface. I was about to learn that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. The building itself was unremarkable, a plain brick facade squeezed between a laundromat and a pawn shop. It was the kind of place you'd walk past 1,000 times and never notice. But the moment I stepped inside, the air changed. It grew heavy, still, waiting. Mr. Hoffman was there to meet me in the lobby. He wasn't the gruff, imposing landlord I'd pictured. He was a small, bird-like man with frantic eyes that darted into every shadow. His hands trembled as he shook mine, his skin clammy and cold. Apartment 3C. Yes. This way. He spoke in a hushed whisper, as if afraid of being overheard, even though we were completely alone. He smelled of mothballs and fear. Every creak of the floorboards made him flinch. His entire being was a tightly wound coil of anxiety, and being near him felt like standing next to a bomb that was about to go off. This man wasn't a predator. He was prey, and he was leading me right into the hunter's den. He took me to a small, dusty office in the basement. The lease was already laid out on a metal desk, a single yellowed sheet of paper under the light of a bare bulb. He didn't offer me a seat. He just pushed a pen across the desk, his finger tapping nervously on the signature line. It's all standard. The terms are fixed, non-negotiable. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. They were fixed on the paper. As I leaned in to sign, I saw my own hand was shaking slightly, a mirror of his terror. You just accept the state of things as they are, he mumbled, more to himself than to me. I signed my name, the scratch of the pen echoing in the silence. The moment I was done, he snatched the paper away and handed me a single, heavy, ornate brass key. This will get you in, he said, his voice dropping even lower. But it won't let you out. Not after 9:30. Remember that. Your selection is now permanent. He scurried out of the office, leaving me alone with the key, which felt colder and heavier than any piece of metal should. When I got up to the 3rd floor, Rick was already there, my few pathetic boxes piled in the hallway. He moved with a feverish energy, hauling my things inside without a word. The move-in was a blur of frantic, silent activity. He wasn't helping a friend. He was finishing a job, a grim task he needed to see through to the end. I tried to make small talk, to break the oppressive silence of the apartment, but he just grunted in response, his focus absolute. The apartment was fine. A decent-sized living room, a small kitchen, a bedroom. But it felt sterile, devoid of any personality, like a stage waiting for the actors to arrive. There was an expectant stillness to the air, a sense of immense, ancient patience. It felt like the walls were a form of consciousness, aware of my presence and waiting to see what I would do. It was judging my worthiness to be there. The last box thumped onto the floor. Rick immediately wiped his hands on his pants and backed toward the door, his face pale and slick with sweat. Well, that's it, he said, his voice strained. You're all set. I offered him a beer, a thank you for his help, but he recoiled as if I'd offered him poison. No, I can't. I have to go. He paused in the open doorway, one foot already in the hall, ready to flee. He looked me dead in the eye for the first time all day, and what I saw there was pure, undiluted fear. Listen to me, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Whatever happens, you have to believe you're in control. Your imagination. It's a weapon here. It's your only operant power. Don't let them make you forget that. Before I could ask who they were, he was gone. I heard his footsteps pounding, down the hallway and then the stairs, the sound of a man running for his life. I was alone. The click of the apartment door closing behind him sealed me in. The silence that rushed in to fill the void was profound. I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by the shabby artifacts of my life, and felt a wave of vertigo. Rick's final words echoed in the oppressive quiet. "Your imagination is a weapon here." Mr. Hoffman's voice joined the chorus in my mind. "Your selection is permanent." I walked over to the window and looked down at the street. People were walking by living their normal lives, completely unaware of the strange reality that existed just 3 floors above them. I had a home. I had what I wanted. I tried to focus on the feeling of relief, telling myself I am safe. But my inner world was churning with a thick black tide of dread. Here's what changes everything. My assumption had been that I was moving into an empty apartment. I was wrong. It wasn't empty at all. I decide to start unpacking. It's a way to reclaim some sense of normalcy, to impose my own order on this strange, silent space. I need to make this place mine, to fill its unsettling emptiness with my own familiar junk. My inner world craves the comfort of routine. I start with the kitchen, tearing open a box of mismatched plates and coffee mugs. The simple, physical act of putting things away is grounding. I wipe down the counters, open and close drawers, trying to overwrite the weirdness of the day with mundane activity. I'm making a conscious assumption. This is just an apartment. Rick is a weirdo, Mr. Hoffman is an anxious old man, and I am just a guy who got a lucky break. I repeat it to myself, a mantra to establish a new state of being. I am home. I am safe. I am in a normal apartment. The silence in the room seems to mock my efforts, a dense listening void that my coffee mugs cannot fill. I open a high cabinet above the sink, planning to store some glasses there. The cabinet is empty, clean, except for a small folded piece of paper resting in the back corner. It's the same color as old bones, a sickly yellow-brown, and it looks incredibly fragile. My heart gives a painful thud against my ribs. It feels like I was meant to find this. It's not a forgotten note. It's a fixture, a permanent part of the apartment left for the next occupant. For me. The air in the kitchen suddenly feels heavy and cold, the temperature dropping several degrees in an instant. All my forced-on normalcy shatters like a cheap plate. This is it, the catch, the thing that Rick and Hoffman were so terrified of. The apartment's true consciousness was finally showing its hand, and it was holding this single brittle piece of paper. I reach in and take it, my fingers trembling. I unfold it carefully. The paper is so delicate I'm afraid it will turn to dust. The words are written in a precise looping script, the ink faded to the color of dried blood. At the top of the page, a simple, chilling title: The Rules of Occupancy for Apartment 3C. A wave of dizziness hits me, and I grip the counter to steady myself. This isn't a prank. This is a manual. I read the first rule. 1. The front door must be bolted at exactly 9:31 p.m., not a second sooner or later. The mechanism is old and must be engaged at the proper time. It was oddly specific, technical. The second was worse. 2. After 10 p.m., you may hear the sound of keys jingling in the hallway. Do not approach the door. Do not look through the peephole. The sound is not for you. My breath catches in my throat. This goes beyond a landlord's quirks. These are instructions for navigating a hostile environment. They are the physics of this new reality I've chosen. My eyes scan down the list, a morbid compulsion dragging me from one nightmare to the next. 3. If a child begins to cry outside your door after midnight, it is crucial that you ignore it. Do not speak. Do not open the door. The sound is a lure to test your selection. 4. When using the bathroom mirror, ensure you are the only one looking back. If you see movement behind your reflection, turn off the light and leave the room for at least 1 hour. 5. Never leave food out on the counter overnight. It is seen as an offering, and you do not want to invite it to dinner. Each rule chipped away at my sanity, replacing it with a cold, sharp terror. The world I knew, the one with logical explanations and predictable outcomes, did not exist within these 4 walls. I was in a new state now, one governed by a malevolent, unseen power, and this list was my only hope of survival. I read all 10 rules. The last one was the most cryptic. 10. You are the new assumption. Do not let it change you into what it wants. I slide down the cabinet to the floor, the paper crinkling in my clenched fist. My mind is reeling. It's all real. Rick's frantic escape, Hoffman's constant terror. They weren't crazy. They were informed. They knew about this game. My choice to take the apartment, my selection, wasn't a choice for freedom. It was a choice to take a place on the board. The rules are the operant power that governs movement, and I am the new piece. And as this horrifying new consciousness settles into my mind, I glance at the cheap clock on the kitchen wall. The black hands show the time, 9:28 p.m. The first test is 3 minutes away. The clock on the wall is a predator. It's ticking a countdown to the first test. 9:30. 1 minute. I stare at the deadbolt on the front door, my mind a screaming chaos of disbelief and terror. Is this a prank? Am I losing my mind? The list of rules feels like a lead weight in my pocket. Every instinct tells me this is insane, to just walk out, to leave the key and run. But where would I go? Back to the grease trap? Back to the room with the brick wall? My desperate selection has already been made. The clock hand clicks over. 9:31 p.m. A jolt of pure animal panic shoots through me. I lunge at the door and throw the bolt. The sound is not a simple click. It's a deep, heavy, resonant chunk, as if a bar of solid steel has fused with the doorframe. The sound echoes. In the small apartment, a note of absolute finality. I am sealed in. My first act of compliance. The apartment seems to exhale around me, a low groan from the walls acknowledging my obedience. I spend the next few hours in the dark, sitting on a cardboard box, my back against the wall. I'm too afraid to unpack, too terrified to sleep. Every creak of the old building is a potential threat, every distant siren a monster. Then, I hear it. Faint at first, a distant metallic shimmer. It grows steadily louder. The sound of a large ring of keys, jingling just outside in the hallway. The sound is slow, methodical, unhurried. It's the sound of someone who owns the place, who has nowhere else to be. My blood runs cold. Rule 2. Do not approach the door. Do not look through the peephole. The jingling stops right outside my apartment, 3C. The silence that follows is deafening. My imagination, my own treacherous inner world, conjures a dozen horrors. Is it Hoffman? Or is it the caretaker the rules warned me about? A soft, deliberate scratching starts at the lock. My heart feels like it's going to explode. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to control my breathing. This is a test. The sound is a lure, designed to provoke a reaction, to make me use my own consciousness against myself. Rick's words come back to me, a lifeline in a sea of fear. Your imagination is a weapon here. It's not just my weapon, it's theirs too. They create a vacuum with a sound, and my mind rushes to fill it with terror. That's the operant power of this place. It uses you to scare yourself. I have to break the circuit. I force myself to stay on the box, to become a stone, a thing that does not react. I make the selection of absolute stillness. It feels like an eternity, but it was probably only a minute or two. The scratching stops. After a long, pregnant pause, the jingling resumes, slowly moving away, fading down the hall until it's gone. A wave of relief so intense it makes me dizzy washes over me. I passed. Sleep is a distant country I have no passport for. Around 3 a.m., just as my adrenaline-soaked body begins to slump with exhaustion, a new sound starts. It's a quiet sound, easily missed. A child weeping softly in the hallway. Then a voice, small and trembling. Hello? Can anyone hear me? I'm lost. My heart seizes. It's a little girl. Every fiber of my being, every scrap of decency, screams to go to the door. Rule 5 flashes in my mind, a neon sign of warning. If a child's voice asks to be let in, do not answer. It is not a child. The voice is so convincing, so perfectly pitched to tear at your soul. Feeling is the key. I understand now. This place uses emotion as its key, and it's jamming it into the lock of my compassion, trying to force it open. It's the most sophisticated trap yet. Please, the voice sobs. and I can hear her small footsteps shuffling right up to my door. It's so dark out here, I just want my mommy. A tiny fist begins to tap weakly on the wood. Tap, tap, tap. My resolve shatters. This is too cruel. What if it's real? What if I let a child suffer because of a crazy piece of paper? My assumption that it's a monster wavers. But then I hear something else. Something underneath the sobbing. A low, guttural growl, so quiet it's almost subliminal. It's there for only a second, but it's enough. The illusion is broken. The child's voice is a mask. I scramble away from the door, pressing my hands over my ears, humming a frantic, tuneless song to drown out the pleading. The monstrously innocent voice continues for what feels like an hour, begging, crying, tapping. Then, silence. I survived the night. But the knowledge that I am living inside a trap that is actively, intelligently trying to kill me has settled deep into my bones. And I realize I can't do this alone. The sun rises, but it brings no comfort. The apartment feels different in the daylight, the shadows holding a memory of the night's terrors. The heavy chunk of the deadbolt retracts on its own with a soft click, the sound of a cell door opening. I'm paralyzed with fear and uncertainty, but I know I can't stay locked in here forever. I pull the door open a crack and peer into the hallway. It's empty. Sunlight streams through a grimy window at the far end. It looks normal. Deceptively so. I take a tentative step out, my nerves screaming. That's when I see him. Standing halfway down the hall, a small boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with unnervingly serious eyes. He's barefoot, wearing a simple, old-fashioned white shirt and gray trousers. He isn't frightening, but he feels ancient. "You survived," he says, his voice calm and clear, betraying no childish inflection. The voice is a hard test. A lot of people fail the voice. I can't speak. I can only stare as this impossible child approaches, his bare feet making no sound, on the worn floorboards. "My name is Thomas," he says, stopping a few feet away from me. "I've lived here a long time. The rules on the paper, they are your only shield. You have to understand this building isn't just a building. It is a state of consciousness, a hungry one." He speaks of the entities not as ghosts, but as parasites of the mind. They have no real form, he explains, his gaze unwavering. They read your inner world, your memories, your fears. Then they use your own imagination to build the trap. They present you with a choice, a selection, and they need you to agree. The sound of keys, the girl's voice, they are all just questions. Your power is in how you answer. His words are a terrifying revelation, confirming the disjointed warnings from Rick and Hoffman and giving them a horrifying coherence. Later that day, I force myself to use the bathroom. I'm caked in the sweat of last night's fear. I remember Rule 4. When using the bathroom mirror, ensure you are the only one looking back. I wash my face, keeping my eyes down. But I can't resist. I have to know. I flick my eyes up to the mirror for a single second. It's me, but it's not. My reflection is perfectly still, but it's wearing a wide, knowing, predatory smile. Its eyes are empty, black holes. A wave of nausea and vertigo washes over me, a psychic pull from the glass as if my own consciousness is being siphoned away. I feel the core of my being, my I am, being challenged. I hear Thomas's voice in my head. It's a lie. Don't believe it. I slam my hand against the light switch, plunging the room into darkness, and stumble back out into the hall, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. An hour later, there's a firm knock on my door. Not the ghostly tapping of the night before, but a solid, real-world knock. I look through the peephole. A man in a stained caretaker's uniform stands there, a friendly, simple-minded smile on his face. "Afternoon," he says cheerfully, his voice muffled by the door. "Name's Alistair, just doing my rounds. Saw the new name on the roster. It's a scorcher. Out there today, eh? Figured you might be thirsty." He holds up a tall, sweating glass of what looks like ice water. The simple gesture is disarming, an oasis of normalcy. But Rule 6 is a klaxon in my mind. The caretaker is not your friend. Do not accept anything he offers you. This is another selection, a more subtle test. To accept the water would be to accept a contract, to agree to his reality. No, thank you, I call out, my voice strained. I'm not thirsty. The friendly smile on Alistair's face through the peephole doesn't just fade, it evaporates. His features go slack, his eyes turning dull and empty. The change is instantaneous and utterly terrifying. Suit yourself, he says, his voice now a flat, lifeless monotone. He turns the glass over and pours the water onto the welcome mat, where it sizzles faintly like acid. Then he turns and shuffles away down the hall. I lean against the door, my legs weak. Thomas was right. This whole place is a sequence of tests designed to break you down, to earn your compliance. The rules are not suggestions. They are the absolute core of my survival. I'm learning the game, but I can feel the building's intelligence learning. Me too. I survived the basic lures, but that's only the surface. It knows it has to try harder now. The third night is coming and it will be far more aggressive. The third night descends not like a blanket, but like a shroud. A palpable sense of malice hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. When I throw the deadbolt at 9:31 p.m., the resonant chunk feels less like a defense and more like the start of a countdown. Tonight there is no slow build, no subtle test. At precisely 10 p.m. the world ends. Every light in my apartment, every glimmer of electricity, simply ceases to exist. It's not a power failure, it's a deletion. The darkness that rushes in is a physical entity, a solid, silent, and absolute black. My heart hammers against my ribs. The building is flexing its operant power, demonstrating its complete and utter control over this tiny pocket of reality. My imagination, no longer held in check by sight, immediately populates the void with the things I fear most, my own inner world weaponized against me. Then comes the sound, the groaning, protesting shriek of the building's single elevator, a machine I was told was decommissioned years ago. It's moving. It claws its way up from the basement, the sound of grinding rusty metal a slow-motion scream. As it approaches my floor, a new horror joins the assault. A smell seeping under my door. It's the scent of old, wet decay, of spoiled meat left in the sun. Rule 3. Never acknowledge the smell of decay. It is a lure. The elevator judders to a halt, the sound confirming it's right outside my hall. With a final, agonizing groan, the doors scrape open. The smell intensifies, a wave of pure rot. The building is holding the doors open for me. It's a silent, stinking invitation to step out of my reality and into its own, to take a ride down to the source of the corruption. A frantic, scratching sound erupts at my door, so sudden it makes me cry out. It's Thomas. Let me in now. His voice whispers urgently through the wood. My hands shaking, I unlatch the small chain lock I'd added myself, and he slips through the crack, a small shadow in the oppressive dark. They're angry, he pants, his usual calm shattered. You follow the rules too well. When they can't trick your mind, they try to break it with a show. He tells me the darkness, the elevator, the smell. It's all a psychic projection, a desperate and chaotic play. They are formless. They need to use your consciousness as a canvas. They are throwing everything at you, trying to overload you, to put you in a state of pure panic so you forget the rules and just react. He reveals a terrifying truth. The more aggressive they become, the more powerful I am, but the danger is 1,000 times greater. As he speaks, a thin tendril of gray smoke curls under the front door, then another and another. A new smell fills the air, not of decay, but of acrid chemical fire. A moment later, a smoke alarm down the hall begins to shriek, a piercing, mind-splitting pulse of sound. This is the master stroke, a perfect simulation of a real-world disaster, designed to obliterate the building's own twisted logic. My survival instincts, honed by a lifetime in a world where fire means death, scream at me to run, to claw open the door and flee. "Don't!" Thomas shouts over the alarm, his voice a tiny anchor in the storm. It's the ultimate lie. They are creating an assumption of fire in your mind. Feel the door. There is no heat. It's an illusion to make you break the most important rule. Never open the door before dawn. The phantom smoke thickens, my lungs burning with an imagined agony. The alarm is a physical blow, over and over. This is the true selection. Thomas yells, his face a pale moon in the gloom. They need you to choose their illusion over your sanctuary. To open that door is to surrender your I am and agree to become whatever they want you to be. I collapse to the floor, caught between two warring realities. I squeeze my eyes shut and focus on the one truth I have left, Thomas's voice. I cling to it, fighting my own mind, my own body, every screaming nerve that tells me to run. The battle rages for an eternity. Then, in an instant, it's over. The alarm stops, the smoke vanishes, the lights flicker on. The silence is deafening. I have survived, but I now know the building's true goal isn't just to kill me, it is to get my permission to do so. And the final test would be for my very soul. The fourth night is quiet, deceptively so. The silence is a coiled snake waiting. I perform the ritual at 9:31 p.m., the chunk of the bolt a familiar prayer against the dark. For hours, nothing happens. I almost allow myself to believe it's over. Then it begins, not a whisper or a sound, but a violent physical ringing that shakes the very bones of the building, the main fire alarm. A real deafening bell, accompanied by flashing red emergency lights that strobe under my door. This is not the phantom alarm from before. I hear panicked shouts in the hallway, the slam of doors, the thunder of running feet. The smell of smoke is thick, oily, and undeniably real. I feel its heat seeping through the doorframe. Thomas is already in the room with me, having appeared from the darkest corner as the alarm began. "This is it," he says, his voice a grim anchor in the chaos. "The great assumption. They are forcing the lie on everyone at once. We have to leave, but we must not run. We have to open the door," he says, and my blood runs cold. It's the one rule we have never broken. "The rules kept you safe inside the illusion," Thomas explains calmly, even as the building shrieks around us. "But now the illusion is everywhere. Safety is not in the room anymore. Safety is through it. But you must hold on to your own consciousness. Believe only what I tell you, not what you see." My hand trembles as I undo the bolt. I pull the door open, and I step out of my apartment and into hell. The hallway is gone, replaced by a pulsating corridor of living, breathing shadow. The walls are made of a black, viscous substance, and the faces of the damned are trapped within it, their silent screams the true source of the alarm's ringing. Other tenants run past us, their bodies flickering and distorting like corrupted video files, their own panicked imagination fueling the nightmare that consumes them. At the stairwell, the thing that was once the caretaker, Alistair, awaits. He is a 9-foot-tall monstrosity of rust and decay, his body a grotesque fusion of boiler parts and human flesh, his smile a jagged chasm of broken pipes. Room 3C, the creature booms, its voice the grinding of gears. Checkout is not permitted. It raises an arm made of fused molten mops. Its operant power is fear, Thomas whispers, pulling me back from the edge of the stairs. It feeds on it. We can't fight it. He guides me away, toward a service corridor I've never seen, a gash in the living wall. The building itself is a shifting labyrinth, its geography a product of its malevolent will. We are navigating the physical manifestation of a dead god's mind, and every step is a test of my selection to remain sane, to hold on to my own reality. Thomas leads me down into the choking darkness of the basement. Standing before the final exit door is a woman in a faded floral dress, her back to us. She is weeping, a sound of such profound and bottomless grief that it threatens to shatter my soul. It is the purest expression of despair, the ultimate emotional key. "The landlord's wife," Thomas breathes. "She is the first one who made the wrong assumption. She anchors this entire state of being." As we draw closer, the woman slowly turns. Her face is a perfect, smooth canvas of blank skin, with no eyes, no nose, only a single screaming mouth from which the sound of pure sorrow pours like a flood. This is the heart of the machine, the original surrendered I am. We have to walk past her. I focus on the image of the outside world, on the memory of fresh air, and I walk through the wave of her psychic agony, an insect crawling past a star. We burst out of a maintenance hatch and into the cool, clean air of the back alley. The alarm is gone. The screaming is gone. The building stands behind me, silent and solid, a simple brick structure under the moonlight. I am free. I turn to Thomas, but he is no longer there. I am alone. I stumble around to the front of the building, my mind a wasteland. A car pulls up to the curb, its headlights cutting through the dark. Rick gets out. He looks hollowed out, a puppet whose strings were cut long ago. He opens the passenger door. A young woman gets out, smiling, her eyes full of hope and excitement for her new life. "I can't thank you enough, Ricky," she says, hugging a box to her chest. "I still can't believe how perfect it is." Rick doesn't answer. He just looks up at the dark window of apartment 3C, his face a mask of endless torment, and presses a heavy, ornate brass key into her hand. I watch, frozen, as the great and terrible machine resets itself, ready for the next consciousness. The apartment was never the real trap. The trap is the desperation inside you that needs to believe in an easy way out. He didn't break the cycle, he just accepted his new role within it. The monster is a system, and now he's a part of the machine. So, the next time life hands you a key that seems too good to be true, whose room are you really taking? Leave a comment telling us which rule you would have broken. And if this story awakens something in you, subscribe and activate the notifications. The next lesson is about what happens when you finally see the face of the thing you've invited inside. Click now if you're ready to see it.